Mr. President, if we can ask you specifically, we heard yesterday your frustrations about how long it'll take to count the ballots here. Then why are you spending more energy to get the resources and the funding for the states that they want to be able to secure this election for all Americans?
Peter, you know nothing about my energy, okay?
What energy?
You know nothing about what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's why he asked you, what are you doing? See, that's how questions actually work.
Listen.
This is what happens when you plant all the questions you want with OAN, and you're like, look, you're not asking the question that was on your card.
You know nothing about what I do. So NBC, I just told you about the false report that NBC put out the other night about the mayor of Portland, and this is the kind of stuff you get. You'll see what happens, and it's common sense. Everyone knows mail-in ballots are a disaster.
So what are you doing to compensate? How are you going to make it safe so that people don't need to do mail-in ballots?
Just have to take a look at the last recent, take a look at New York City. Look at New York. They're still counting your ballots, Pat. Do you know that? They had a race, a small race by comparison. By comparison, tiny. It's so messed up, they have no idea there are ballots missing. Thousands and thousands of
It's a primary, I think.
ballots are missing.
I'm not quite sure what he's talking about, but yeah.
They think they're going to send
It would be a primary, unless is there a judge or something going on?
hundreds of millions of ballots all over the United States, and it's going to come out. You won't know the election result for weeks, months, maybe years after. Maybe you'll never know the election result.
That's what see, here's what's going to happen. He is going to lose on election night by an electoral landslide, and he knows this. And so what he's planning on doing is claiming that a lot of the votes were fraudulent. And by the way, mail-in ballots are counted on election night. But you can send them in ahead of time, and they're counted on election night. You don't mail, the last day to mail them is election day. But most people, when they do a mail-in vote, are doing it at least a week before because they want it to be part of the counting on election night. So if he actually believed what he was saying, he would say, you know, if you're going to vote by mail, you know, vote at least a week ahead so you can get your vote in and it's voted on that night, you know, so people know the night of, so we don't have to drag this out. But what he's planning on doing is suing and saying if it's close at all, he's going to assume that the mail-in ballots were actually for him and that there's a bunch of fake Democrat ballots, and so they're going to have to do recounts and stuff, and then he's going to hope that he can claim the presidency.
And that's what I'm concerned with.
Yeah, that's what you're concerned with.
It'll be fixed, it'll be rigged. People ought to...
So he's expecting to lose, is what he's saying. Because if you're saying you're going to win and your polls are really good, if it's fixed and it's rigged, then if you win, just like last time, like, if you win, what's this whole deep state bullshit I've heard about?
Smart. And I just hope our Republican voters, the people that are for you,
make sure that they vote on November 10th. No, I'm just kidding.
Are going to do what they have to do. Absentee ballots are great because absentee ballots, you have to go through a process to get them, and it's actually a great thing. Absentee ballots. I'm going to be voting absentee.
Not a process. Why are you voting absentee? Why is he voting absentee? There is no reason.
Absentee. An absentee ballot is one thing. A universal mail-in ballot is a disaster. These governors are going to send out millions of ballots
to registered voters.
They don't even know where they're sending them. I already have friends. They got ballots for a son who died 7 years ago.
Yeah, is he going to sign it and send it back and it's going to be cleared?
You don't even want to talk about it. But
you do know that they purge dead people before the election.
The media knows this. Actually, the Washington Post wrote a great article of all groups.
By the way, this anecdotal story he keeps telling we're a country of 340 million people, and the one story he tells over and over is this dude who had a son who died and he still got his registration information, not his ballot.
A week ago, the Washington Post wrote a great article that this is a disaster. This is going to be the greatest election disaster in history. And by the way, you guys...
Well, no, it isn't. You're not going to win.
I'd like to talk about Russia.
By the way, what's with the gin nose today?
Russia and China and other places. They'll be able to forge ballots. They'll forge them. They'll do whatever they have to do.
How? What are you talking about? They have to match a UPC code that the Secretary of State has. How do you add them to the Secretary of State's database for when they're counted? Does he think they just flip through paper and go, well, there's 10 here, must be 10? Like, they max them up. There's a process. We're a first world country. They're just going to count everybody with a purple finger and I'm going to lose.
People should go and they should vote or do an absentee ballot.
So what are you doing to secure it there, Richard?
Say it.
The military predominantly votes by mail or absentee.
Absentee.
And so...
You didn't understand me. I said absentee ballots are actually
Thank you, Arlene, and thank you, Cassie. This is weird.
a very good thing. Absentee ballots are secure and they're very good. But universal
What's the difference?
mail-in are a disaster.
It's not universal mail-in. You're giving everybody universally the option.
You're going to see an election and we're going to do very well in the election. Nobody wants...
We're going to see the most rigged election in history where I'm going to do very well. Kind of a weird sales pitch.
that date more than me. I wish we'd move it up, okay? Move it up.
I do too.
But you're not prepared for what...
He wants to move it up because the economy's going to take a huge shit over the next 6 weeks. And he knows it's going to, like, the drag of it's going to affect the mail-in ballots as well.
Doing. And they're using COVID. You know, they're using the China virus.
That's what we're using, yeah.
China must be very happy about it because they hit us with a virus and now they screw up an election like you will never see. You watch what happens. I don't think you'll ever give me any statement. I guess Trump was right, but the people know I'm right. Watch.
What people are these? The lady who thinks demon semen can be cured with, I guess, chucking Holy Sprite on people?
What happens? New York City has a little election. We just talked. You got to see. Do you know how far they're never gonna have the result of that election? Never the correct result. They'll probably announce something at some point. But when did that take place? Like 5-6 weeks ago. Absentee ballots, great. Going to the polls, great. If you do universal mail-ins with millions and millions of ballots, you're never going to know what the real result of an election is. It's going to be a very, very sad day for our country. Go ahead.
On this topic, sir?
I'm trying to find, by the way, which one he's particularly mentioning, this particular case, but there's the New York one. If he keeps referring to the exact same one. Let's see. Having yet to find an effective formula for undercutting Mr. Biden or to lure him into the kinds of culture war fights that the president prefers, Mr. Trump is training more of his fire on the political process. Promoting baseless questions about election fraud is nothing new for Mr. Trump. He hopscotched from saying that President Barack Obama was elected with the help of dead voters to suggesting that the undocumented immigrants were voting en masse to claiming that out-of-state voters were bussed into New Hampshire in 2016. Let's see. On Tuesday, Trump declared, without declaring any evidence, that the 2020 election will be, in my opinion, the most corrupt election in the history of our nation, and we cannot let this happen. Meaning the election, I guess. Mail-in ballots, Mail-in ballots, he said, referring to conspiracy theories, could be stolen from carriers, counterfeited, or forged by either forces inside the United States or by foreign powers who don't want to see Trump win. Oh, so the Russian and Chinese aren't going to do anything this time. Okay. There is a tremendous evidence of fraud wherever you have mail-in ballots. No, there is not tremendous evidence of fraud. Suggest the message was getting through to this base. 80% of Biden supporters in 6 battleground states strongly or somewhat support mail-in voting, while 72% of Mr. Trump supporters strongly or somewhat oppose it. Whoa. 88% of Biden supporters support mail-in voting. 72% of Trump supporters strongly or somewhat oppose it. Jesus Christ. He doesn't want to do this because this is what it is. His followers don't want to mail in their ballots because they probably think it's some sort of UN agenda to track them by address or something. His voters don't want to do mail-in voting. That's why he doesn't want to do it. Because he can't convince them any more than he can convince them to take a stupid vaccine.
Disaster, as you say. Why not commit to putting in resources?
We're putting in all the resources you can, but
we're putting in all the resources you can. Like what?
There's a couple of the radical left people said, who actually agree with me. They said, no matter what you do, we're not prepared for this. They're not prepared for an onslaught of millions of ballots pouring in. They're not prepared.
Yeah. When have we had millions of people vote in an election?
Prepared. They're not prepared. You watch. They're not going to announce anything on November 3rd. They're not going
Yeah, they will.
to announce it on the 4th or the 5th or the 6th. It'll go on forever. People should
It'll go on forever. No, it won't. Because if it's not certified, Nancy Pelosi becomes president on January 20th.
go. You know, they voted Mick during World War I. They voted during World War II. They went
Neither one of them were contagious, nor fought on this continent.
to the polls. They voted. They went to their booth.
Yeah. This is in England during the Luftwaffe.
They voted proudly. But now with COVID, they don't want to vote.
Yeah, it's contagious.
They don't want to vote.
No, everybody does. Apparently, your people don't want to vote by mail. This is what you're scared of.
This will be
If my people are asked to vote by mail, they won't fill it out because they don't believe it. Or I can lie and pretend that they actually wanted to vote for me, but their ballots got thrown out.
catastrophic for our nation. And you'll see it. I'm always right about things like this. I guess I must be.
But-
I wouldn't be sitting here.
but-
Yes, Jennifer, go ahead. You want
did the-
something? Jennifer, do you want?
No,
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
Yeah.
please, in the back.
What is your decision to delay the election in Hong Kong? What is your opinion?
I want to right now focus on this election. I'll have a statement about that soon.
On this
I heard
topic-
that they did the delay in Hong Kong, and we'll have a statement about
Mr.
that. But I want to focus on
this
this.
topic. Sir, on this
Okay,
topic-
thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much.
A quick question on Obama. Yeah. He's a happy dude. He's a happy dude. Look at him. He's so happy.